Hello everyone, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back. We've got part 2 now of the build of this beautiful Pocher Porsche 917, and what a beauty it is too. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe down there, and if you like what you see, hit the thumbs up, and if you want to see more, hit the notifications bell and you'll be notified whenever I put these videos out, depending how well YouTube is working on that particular day. If you haven't already seen part 1 of this, go and have a look. There is a full playlist. Every video I do concerning this model will go into a playlist, and it's all there on my channel, so go take a look. But I've done part 1, which was basic assembly of the transmission as per step 1 in the instructions. Then I did, straight after that, I did a part 1A, which is where I showed you how I'm doing some slight modifications, gluing some stuff together, doing some seam sealing, stuff like that. So basically, if you built your model as per part 1, okay, you've ended up with something that looks like this, other than your intakes here for the transmission cooling will be that lovely yellow mustard colour that Pocher have painted them for you. The reason mine look grey is because I've glued them together. You can see here in the instructions they come in halves. I've glued them together and then dealt with the seams. So that's something I wanted to do, and that's something I've done in part 1, I think, and then finished it off in part 1A. But there will be little bits and pieces I'll show you as I go through, and then for every video, hopefully for every video, there will be a, like after this one, there will be a part 2A or part 2 revisited. So if you see one with revisited, it's just the standard build with a few alterations. I'm not going to be adding stuff like, you know, scratch building oil coolers and stuff like that, but I will just be, you know, seam sealing, changing the build sequence around slightly, painting stuff, changing colors, stuff like that. But I will initially try and build it out of the box to show you what you get. If you do want to see a simple build with a little bit of music in the background, a guy in his lovely wooden table in his beautiful house, building this straight out of the box, Pocher have actually put out, they're probably going to put out a series, but at the moment live on YouTube, well, as of today is actually in real time, it is Tuesday the 8th of October 2024. This video will be going out on the Saturday, or maybe even the Friday. And basically what he's doing in those videos, he is building the model out of the box with a pair of gloves on and giving you a few hints and tips. You will see they do things like they say pre-screw, like when they do the exhausts, they talk about putting screws in here first, which makes it easier when you're actually coming to screw the screws in. I tend to use taps. I like to cut a thread with a tap, as those of you who regularly watch me will know. But yeah, I use basically for the screws in here, I'm using taps. I've got an M2, there's M1.5 for the metal screw there for screw C. We've got an M1.5 for screw A, and then we've got an M2 for screws E, G, I, J, and that's it. Okay, and then you'll see here I've got a couple of here with stars marked, and what they've done, they've made M2.3 screws, but they've put an even coarser thread on them. Now the standard thread they're using, like for instance on this screw here, N, 2.3 by 5 PWM, that means it's 5 millimeters long, it's M2.3 and it has a washer on it. That is a normal M2.3 thread. M and F are not normal 2.3s, they're even more coarse. So I've got those marked with a star there, and I think they've done that to make them easier to drive in. So you can tap them M2.3 or just drive them in as intended. The guy that's building on the camera for Pocher, Porsche then, the guy who's building for Pocher, he seems to just be driving them in without tapping any threads. They do certainly appear to go in easier on this than they do on the Lamborghini. I would thoroughly recommend, if you're building the Pocher Lamborghini, I've done a full build series on it, I would thoroughly recommend cutting your threads first, because a friend of mine, Moss, has been building one out of the box and he's given himself blisters where he's trying to drive the screws in, so it's worth remembering. Okay, so here we go. So this is basically step 1 of the instructions. Ignore the fact I've got a steel rod going between there holding those two together. I did have an issue when I came to put this screw J into part DCB8A, the spigot that goes into the gearbox was a little too short, so the screw was only just grabbing on the end, and because I cut the thread it was easy to strip it. Other people are telling me they've used the screw straight out of the box as per the instructions and they've been fine. So we shall see. I mean, I don't know if you knock it or something, is it going to get broken off? But basically I've got a steel shaft in there and I've cut an M2 thread on there and I've screwed it in so that basically those shafts, I haven't actually attached them yet, but I can just quickly show you what I've done. I mean, I have attached them, but I haven't thread locked them yet. Once I thread lock them, they won't undo, but I've left them like removable so that I can take them out to paint them. But you can see here we've got a shaft with an M2 thread on it, and then that'll screw in there. Okay, so there we go. It's not necessary, but it's sort of a nice to have, if you know what I mean. Okay, so we just screw that back on there. Come on, go, 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 go. And we can just screw that in and just nip it up so they still, so I'm not sure if they're designed to turn or not, but we're going to have ours turning, but I want to be able to take them off to paint them. So as I say, there's basically your transmission. Those are screwed in and not torqued down. There's a tiny touch of glue on there and there and there, so I can just break those off to paint them afterwards, so that'll be part of the final of the engine. So that's that done. So now we can move on to step 2. So you can see here we've got step 1, this is our finished transmission, and we're going to be actually fitting that into the main engine cases, which I believe are magnesium. I will check my references. As I say, come back and watch the revisited and you'll get ideas about what colour to paint everything. I was on Moss's live stream last week and Daryl was asking me what colour should these be for the fiberglass. I haven't, brand new fiberglass when it's down is kind of a very, very pale yellow. But in time, especially when it gets around petrol vapours and oil vapours and all that, it does turn a very sort of rich yellowy colour, almost like Kevlar. So, you know, we'll look into that and I will let you know. Certainly on some of the cars I've seen, these have been painted black. But the problem is, you've got to remember, these cars date back from the 70s and they've been in many, many hands, and many, many people have painted things because they want to change the colour, or they might have broken one, had a fiberglass repair done, so they've painted over it in black to make it look better. You know, be careful what you look at. Make sure you look at a few different reference photos. As I mentioned before, there's that guy, I can't remember his name. If you look back at part 1, there is a YouTube channel where they're completely restoring one of these. It's really worth looking at how they go together, but please just ignore the colours until you see them finally rebuild it, because the colours on that car are just, you'll see there's about 7 or 8 different layers of paint on the body. So yeah, be careful. So the only sprue part we've got on here, this is what we call a sprue part. So here you can see, if I can ever get it out of the bag, here you can see we have a sprue, and this is sprue C. Here you can see on there Pocher and the letter C, so that is sprue C, and this is sprue C, so we've got C8, so it's that part there we want. So we're going to grab our Tamiya cutters and we're going to cut this off. Now this has been painted, I think this sprue was originally black. Let's have a look and see what colour it was. I think it was probably black. No, it was white. Okay, so this was a white plastic sprue. They've painted it in this lovely sort of colour, which is designed to look like fiberglass. Okay, so if you remember, if you've done the Porsches that Tamiya do, the 12 scale, they kind of give you this kind of translucent yellow plastic, and that's, again, that's to look like fiberglass. So I'm just going to get this part off here and clean it up. Now this is something I don't think they show you on the Pocher videos, but certainly when you just have music and a guy putting a model together, you know, some people love that, some people can't stand it. So, you know, you've got the choice. You can watch Pocher and just enjoy the music and watch the guy build it, or you can watch me and listen to me ramble and waffle and talk a load of rubbish, and I will try and help you through the build, particularly if you're a newer modeler. Now around here we can see, if I just lightly sand on there, you can see how what it's doing, it's sanding 2 raised ridges. There's a lower spot in the middle, and that is where there is a mold seam. So what we're doing is getting rid of that mold seam from there, just like so. go. So that's coming away lovely. And as you can see, it's exposing the white plastic, but I'm not bothered because I'm going to be painting everything. If you're actually going to keep the painted parts, okay, and you're looking for a paint to touch up where you've sanded that away, I can thoroughly recommend this colour here. This is Tamiya XF4, and as you can see, it's a very, very close match. Or you could use some of the German tan colours. LP77 is here. LP77 is a lacquer paint. Let me just see if I can find a really nice match. Hang on. Yeah, here you go. XF60 would be a really nice match. So you could give that a go. Or a mixture of those two, perhaps. Perhaps a mixture, sort of 50-50 of those two. But that's for if you want it. If you've just cut away the sprues, you just want to touch it up, then you can always do that. The other thing I always do now is, if you are completely cleaning it up, you may be wanting to repaint it with your Tamiya paint to completely change the colour. I'm not even sure that this even should be yellow. I got a feeling this would have been aluminium because I think it's a pulley. But we shall see. I think it was a belt-driven fan. It's on top of the engine. I think it was belt-driven, that fan. Anyway, so there we go. Right, so what they're telling us in the instructions here is to add a screw K. Okay, so we need to get a screw K. So we've got the box of screws, and then here's a screw K. We've only got 2 of those in there, so we'll grab our screwdriver. We'll grab one of them. And what it's telling us to do is absolutely pouring down outside. I was going to go shopping, but I don't think I will. Now this is a plastic screw, so we're going to just put this in here. Just let it start, and then here we can see that's going into there. Oh, okay, it's going in like that. So basically I think what we can do is screw this all the way in. Okay, it's quite firm. It's going into plastic, so we're not doing thread cutting today on that. Okay, and they're having this so it's free to turn. Now that's got a little bit of play in it, so if you want to get rid of that play, what we can do is undo that screw. Take a sanding stick, holding it as square as you can. Just remove some material from the end of there, and that way you can get rid of the play if you want to. Just to stop it rattling around. There we go, it's absolutely minimal now, the play. Alright, so we're just going to check. We take this other casing, put them together, slide that in there, put these casings together, he says. Come on. Right. That still turns free. I don't think it needs to turn freely, but it's rattling around in there like a prick in a top hat. But, there we go, that's absolutely fine. I don't think it's functional, so the fact that it turns is just, I think it's just something it does. Okay, so that's the first thing to do. Now the next thing to do is fix this engine casing here. So this is the right side engine casing. You can see it's got the R there. Okay, this is the right side, and this is basically going to fix onto our transmission. Now I hope you don't mind. I'm going to remove these 2 pipes because they're going to keep falling off. And basically what I've done here to enable me to assemble the transmission and paint it, rather than have it like it was and have it in one piece, this bridging piece across the bottom, I've showed you how to do this in part 1. I've cut it in half. I've put a piece of wire in there so that I can slot them together like that when they're in there. But it also enables me to have it off like this, and I can basically put that in there, and then I can put that one in there, line the holes up and push them together. And then the hole won't line up now because the camera's on, because that's just the way things are. There we go. and then I can just glue them in there and have them in there nice and solid, but I can take them off for painting. So that's why I've done that, and I hope you don't mind. I'm sorry, I'm taking those off just to make it easier to hold. But if you've done your model as per the instructions, you will have those pipes permanently fixed in place. So I want to keep that sheet out. Right, so we're going to put this on here now. I've already tested this to check it fits, and I've noticed that these ends are sticking out a bit. Now we're going to screw these in with screw J, and screw J is a 2mm or M2 by 3. So I've got my M2 tap here. So I'm literally just going to come along in here and I'm going to tap these threads. I'm sorry about this dirty mat. The reason I keep the dirty mat down is because of all this swarf, and when I sand this metallic grey paint, it makes a right old mess of the bench. So that's why we have the dirty mat. These cards don't come cheap, so I try to keep them going as long as I can. As I say, you don't have to do this. I just do this because I like to. I've got an engineering background at Rolls-Royce Aerospace, so I like to have things right. I'm also looking here, we've got these crankcases are being held together with screw G, which again is a 2mm. So I'm just going to tap these holes in here so that they're ready to accept those 2mm screws. You see, going forward a turn and back half a turn. There we go. We don't need to go all the way in. There we go. So that's our holes done. Now, something I'm not sure about here, when this goes together, it kind of feels like those are protruding, so this is going to rattle around. So what I'm going to do is just take a coarse sanding stick, and I'm just going to sand across the top of these two lugs. Just to remove a small amount of material so that when they go on, they're sub-flush to that surface. Otherwise, you can imagine when I tighten a screw down on there, the screw's going to tighten on there rather than tighten onto the casing, and it's all going to rattle around. So I'm not removing too much. I need to maximise the amount of thread we've got available to us. There we go. So that's nice and flush now. I can feel that's nice and smooth. So I'm going to take two screw J's. So I want screw J, which is here, 1, 2 of those. Put the lid back on the box. Take a screw J, and then into there we go. Okay, and I'm not pulling it down, I'm just nipping it up. Okay, so we can tighten that one, and as you can see, that engine is held firmly in place. Okay, as it was before, it was rattling around a bit, so that's all good. I'm just making sure it's all in line. And then what they're saying is to come along here, put that on, and what we need to do is sandwich this in between, just like so. So we're going to come along and we are going to use, again, we're going to use 2 screw G's. Okay, so these are M2 with the correct thread on them, so they're going to go in nice and easy. And I've got a feeling, yeah, that screwdriver, make sure the head of your screwdriver is small enough to fit, because you don't want to go scraping things up. So that one will screw in there nicely. Okay, and as you can see, my screws are going in just with my fingertips because there's a thread there. Just going with my fingertips. Whoops, I've just broken that bracket off. There we go. So tighten that one up. tighten that one up. Okay. Now this is exactly what I was talking about in part 1 or part 1 revisited. It's okay assembling this as per the instructions, but as I say, as you've just seen, these were only held on with a tiny drop of super glue, so they've just pinged off. But you can see they are very vulnerable, so I always tend to look ahead and think about how vulnerable things are. I do this with all my builds, and everybody knows I like to change the build sequence. But it's like some model kit manufacturers will have you put a pair of fuselage halves together, for instance, and then start adding antenna. Well, that's absolutely crazy, because when you turn the thing over to put the undercarriage and the engines on and stuff, you're just going to break it all off. It's just stupid to do that. So I like to think about, going forward. So as you can see, that's how easy that is to break, and now I've actually broken it on screen unintentionally. So that's taken us up to that part, and what I'm going to do here is just have a look and look down the line and just check that everything is in line, and I can see that this has a slight turn off to one side. So I'm just going to, I can see this engine is slightly skew width, but I'm guessing once we get it all screwed in with these mounts and everything, it'll all pull itself okay. It moves over easily enough. Maybe that's why they want to have a bit of rattle in there. But you can see we have got some play again. So we're able to pull it back. But I just want to make sure it's all square. I'm going to put this bracket to one side so it doesn't get broken, because it's going to keep falling off. I hope you don't mind. So I've gone from, having step 1 complete to half of it gone now. Right. So we've done 1, 2, and then the next thing they're suggesting is the exhausts. Now I noticed on the Pocher video they tell you to pre-thread the exhaust. Now here's this one. This is part DCA19, okay, and they've got here numbered. This is really cool. They've got 4, 5, and 6. I don't know if you can see those numbers on there. There's the 5 and the 6 next to it here. And you can see that the parts going into there are EX4, EX5 and EX6. So we've got a bag here, comes in the kit with these parts in. So we can put that bag to one side, and then every part is individually bagged. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we want 4, 5 and 6. Okay. So that's for that one, and then this one, which is DCA 20, is going to have those 3 with it, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, now what they're telling you to do is glue these together. So if we take, let's just take number 4, because we know it's the front one. Okay, so we've got EX4. Alright, so what we're going to do is going to tell us to glue those in, and because it's metal we're going to have to use super glue. So we're going to glue that into there like that, and they're all numbered as well. Even though they're in bags, you can see we've got a number 4 on there as well, so that's really good, you can't get lost. So you're going to glue that in like that. Alright, lovely, job done. And then move around and do the rest. And then when you come to fit them to the cylinder head, you realise that you've got this one either out of line that way, okay, or you've got it out of line that way, or both. So the best thing to do here is to put our engine to one side and grab the cylinder head. So this is DCA, this is for the right hand cylinder head, and that's right there. Okay, so we can see we've got an R in there, so this is DCA 16. We can put this the right way up, and that is the right way up, and you can see that when we fit this to the engine, it's basically going to go like that, and that is our cylinder barrels. That's where your pistons go up and down, and then we're going to put the heads on after. But for now we're going to put the exhausts on. So rather than glue them together and then have everything not fit, what I want to do is put these in here like this, and then assemble my exhausts if I can. Okay, what we'll have to do, I think, is leave the screws loose. But what I want to do is assemble the exhaust on here In fact, what I can do is assemble it all and then put the glue on afterwards. I'm going to assemble it with all these screws in, with everything lined up, and then we can leave that to dry, and then we can undo the screws, take this off, clean up all our seams, paint it and everything. Now the first thing we want to do here is, as you know, we've got 4, we've got 5, yes they are all numbered, so it's safe to always keep these bags. They're dead handy for putting bits and bobs in when you're modelling, doing small sub-assemblies or whatever. Always good, you know, if you're building, say you're building a 48 scale B17 and you've super detailed the engines, each engine can go in those bags for when you put it back in its box overnight or whatever. So we've got those parts there, so we've got 4, 5, here's number 5, that's going to go in there, okay, and then we've got 6. The first thing to remember is these have to be super glued. If I super glue this in as it is, I'm basically gluing a layer of paint to a layer of paint. So we're going to come in with a knife or any old tool. I've got a radiused knife here, you can use any old tool, an old screwdriver or something, and I'm going to scrape the paint away. Okay, and you'll see when you've scraped the paint away, because as you can see it goes, I can catch it in the light, it goes really shiny. There you go. Okay, it's almost like a mirror. So we're going to get in there and scrape all that paint out of there, so we've got a lovely metal to metal joint. Same on here. Okay, we can use, I've got a skinny sanding stick here, I can get in there with that. Alright, but also the beauty of the scrape of the knife, it makes it rough and it gives it a key. It gives the super glue something to stick to, something to work with. Alright, we'll do the same on this one here, sand this one down at the front and remove all the paint. So yes, this is how I'd recommend for out of the box build. This is not part of my modifications or anything. So I'm scraping the paint away from in there, and then I'm going to scrape the paint from in here, scrape the paint from in there as well. A few of you have been asking about, you know, should I really get this model? Is it worth it? Now, obviously, as some of you know, Pocher have sent me this to do a build for them, and I'm extremely grateful. But I have to be honest, if I was in the market for a 1/8 Porsche 917, this would certainly be top of my list. It's cheaper than the competition, and there is one out there that's £13,000. I did cover what's available in another video, go back and have a look, it's in the playlist when I did the introduction. Yeah, basically this is, I think, not only the best value, but I think is actually the cheapest as well. Remember, there is a difference in best value and cheapest. You know, the pound shop saved me, you know, not saved me, but pound saver ketchup, maybe 50 pence a bottle. So it's certainly the cheapest ketchup out there. But when you compare that to Heinz, it's certainly not the nicest. But then, you know, if you can get a really good quality one for £2, it's probably the best value ketchup, because it's almost as good as Heinz, but it's half the price. Yeah, sorry to use ketchup as an example, but I think you know what I mean. So, but I think this is not only is this the cheapest, I think it's also, other than the one that's £13,000, I think it's the nicest. I think this is actually a bit nicer than the Agora one. I do like the Agora cars, they are very nice. Their GT40 looks amazing, and their Aston Martin, their DB5, whatever it is, looks incredible. So what I'm doing there is cleaning up the seams. Now you may consider that part of a modification or not, but we'll keep that for the modified video. Basically, once again, down here we want to get rid of all the paint from here, so we can scrape it, sand it, whatever, but basically get rid of all the paint from all the mating surfaces. I mean, if you want to, you could paint strip them and start again. You know, that would be one way of doing it. But please be careful not to cut yourself. But please also just make sure you do remove at least most of this paint. Otherwise you'll find that you'll screw it all together and it will just all break apart, because the super glue is just basically, you know, if you can imagine if you had a sticker stuck to a window and you wanted to put a coat hook on it, if you stuck the coat hook to the sticker with the strongest glue in the world, it's the glue on the sticker that depends how well the coat hook will support your coat. So you basically put your coat on there, it would fall off the window because it's pulled the sticker off the window. I hope that analogy works for you. Okay, so this is number 4, so this one's going at the front. So you can see there, that one's going to slot in there, just like so. You can see we've got some nice gaps for the glue to go in. So that's all good. We've got most of the glue, all of the glue out of there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is tap the threads. Now, as I say, Pocher do tell you to pre-tap the screws, pre-screw them. So let's just see. The screws they're using are J. Okay, here are the J screws. It is J, isn't it? Yes. Now they won't go down through there, so what we're going to have to do is put our manifold in place. I'll pre-screw them. That's what I was doing, wasn't it? I'm trying to think and talk and everything at the same time. So they want you to pre-screw them rather than thread cut them, and I'm looking at that, and that is it's not very difficult to push in, but it doesn't feel good. So I'm going to back that out. Okay, and I'm going to get my M2 tap. The J's are M2, aren't they? Yes. Okay. And the other thing I do, just in case you missed it in part 1, I grind the end off the taps. Taps have always got a sharp point. I grind the end off them, and that way it saves damaging if you're in a blind hole. And as you can see now, I'll just show you the difference. You saw me trying to drive that screw in there. Look at the difference now. And it goes all the way home with just fingertips. In fact, I can screw it in and out just to prove I'm not lying. And that is the advantage, guys, of tapping your threads. I cannot get it over enough. It's just, for what they cost. And if you're wondering, if you look on the adverts wherever you see them and it says, you know, M2 fine, M2 coarse or whatever, go for the coarse. It's the coarsest you want. That's the standard bolts or screws they use in these kits. It's the same on your part works, the Agassinis and all that. They pretty much use standard screws. And you'll also see it will say bottoming tap, first tap, taper tap, second tap. The one you want to go for this sort of thing is second tap. Bottoming tap has no, I've covered all this in detail. Bottoming tap has no lead at all. The first tap has a massive lead. What you want to do is get the second tap, grind the nose off, and you're good to go. So here we are, we're going to thread these as well. Let's just drive those threads into there. I know this is going on a bit, guys, but believe me, there are some modelers out there that are getting this model because they're absolutely besotted by the 917, rightfully so, because it is an absolute icon. I think it's a fantastic choice by Pocher to produce this. I think it's an absolutely awesome car. It's a beautiful, beautiful car, and it's about time we had a nice model of it out there, because there ain't many. Yeah, it's still pouring down. What better to be doing, eh, when it's pouring down than sitting at your bench making models like this. Okay, so now we have threads and everything's just going to screw together nice and easy, just like that. Lovely. Right, I'm going to grab my little T-hoo over here. vacuum up that swarf. Right, so how are we going to assemble this? So that is going like that. So what we're going to have to do is the bigger screwdriver, you can see, won't go in, so we'll use the smaller screwdriver. And what we'll do, I don't quite know how I'm going to do this. I'm guessing probably the best thing to do is drop the screw into that hole. That's going to stick to the screwdriver, so we need something non-magnetic. So if I grab a pair of tweezers, I can drop that screw into there. I can put the, is that correct? Yeah, I can put the exhaust manifold up into there. It knocks the screw off. I'm not quite sure how we're going to go about this. I wonder, actually I'm wondering now, if I can get this over on the angle. If I can get the screw in from here. Just to start it. Be careful not to go too mad because you'll cross thread it if it's at an angle. There we are. Okay, so now that's together. I think what we'll do, if we grab the screw with a pair of tweezers, we can put the screwdriver through. Probably best to have it in a hole where there's actually a thread to screw the screw into. Dullard. Okay. I know this is a bit of fuss, guys, but so we'll do that. In a minute I'll be stopping the camera and doing some work off camera, so don't worry, you're not going to have to sit and watch me through every single move that I make. Okay, so now that exhaust is on there, it's all nice and loose. So now we can take number 4, which goes in the forward position, get that into the head. Okay, can we actually put that into the cylinder head first and then get it back into the hole? Or shall I unscrew this a bit? Just have it in a couple of turns, maybe that'll be enough. I like doing this sort of thing on camera, guys. I know it's not, I know it's like watching paint dry at times, but if you come across the same issues, then you'll know it's not you. It's right, so I reckon if I take that screw out of there, I should be able to get that in enough to push that one in. No, so probably the thing to do here then is to take this off and put those in first and then put the big one on over the top. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so what I've done, I've got 4, 5 and 6 there. They've gone into position 2, 4 and 5. Okay, so they're just in loosely, as you can see. So now if I hold that one in there, I can bring that up together, bring these two out. Yes, it's a bit fiddly, but it's worth it in the end. And then I can bring these up just like so and put that together. And you can see that we can just actually slot these into place after it's all together. So with that roughly held in place like that, I'm going to grab another screw J. I'm going to hold that in there like that, and I'm going to screw up that middle one. Make sure that number 4 stays in place. And what I'm going to do is tighten that one to hold it up, and then come along and do the rest, the other two, 1, 2, and then we'll see about tightening it all. Okay, so everything's in there now. It's all loose, even though you can see it's all sort of not moving around. So that one there, what we're going to do is first of all is pull the actual main manifold up tight. So that's that one there, and that one there. Okay, so that's all pulled up nice and tight. Now this number 4, which is cylinder number 2 if you like, but it's actually pipe number 4, that can pull up. And you can see now that when I've pulled that up, there's a gap there. So if we'd have glued that in without that gap, I mean, if I undo it, I might be able to get rid of the gap. Now, as I pull it up, it's pulling it away. So I think this is probably the way to go, guys, to get this. So I can hold that pipe there. That's number 6. Tighten that one down, and that stays in position there. That one is tight, isn't it? Yes. And then this one here, number 5, I'm going to push that down in. And then with the screwdriver, just pull it down. And you can see now everything is sat in its natural position. It's all nicely fitted together, but that number 4, that would have been slightly out. So now if I glue that together and leave it overnight or whatever to harden, then I know that when I take it apart, everything's going to fit. We've got all the paint scraped off, so we've got good metal to metal joints, and then we can use the super glue as a filler, fill all these seams, and have a lovely clean exhaust system looking all beautiful. Now remember, on this car, you look underneath, you're going to see all this. This isn't like the Lamborghini, it's not all covered up. This is all going to be exposed. We'll also sand out these numbers, we'll fill that ejector pin mark, and we'll have it all looking gorgeous. Remember, when this whole body lifts off, you're going to see this engine, and it's going to be sat like that, okay? And you're going to see all the suspension, everything sat here, and you have the big clamshell body. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful car. It really is. I'd love to build a real kit car one, but they are so expensive, it's untrue. Just like the real thing. Right, and it's still bucketing down outside. So we'll get some super glue on that. So what I'm going to use for this is this one here. No, that one. I'm going to use this one here, which is the VMS. There we go. They do like to weld the tops on. I'm going to use the VMS. This is the one that's called 4PE, but I really like it because it's got a nice thickish consistency, but it's thin enough to capillary into all the joints. So I've got an applicator here. I'm going to grab a cigarette lighter and just clean it off, just like so. With a rag, just wipe it off. And then we can get a big old dollop of glue on here. We can start off in here, we can start filling it up. Okay, don't be scared, you can sand it all off when it dries, you can wipe it off when it's wet. Get a big old dollop in there as well. It can all capillary in. Okay, as I say, don't be scared of it because it's got a lot of capillary in to do. Just like so. As I say, don't be scared of using too much because it's going to soak in. Well, not soak in, it's going to pull into the joint. If it was cloth, it would soak in, wouldn't it? There we are. Okay, and then we'll just finally do this front one. And if there's one tip you take from me I think this should be the one, because I can see a lot of problems coming if you glue it all together first. I'm going to need some more glue there. Be careful how we put it down, because there's going to be glue everywhere. Just get some more glue out here. As you can see, it's using loads. But it's basically, it's not only gluing, it's gap filling as well. And we should find that when it all dries, we can come in and sand it all back, and we'll have seamless joints. I did the same on the Pocher Lamborghini. If you want to go back and look at that, there's a playlist for that one as well. Okay, so that's that. I wouldn't recommend accelerators, because in my experience, accelerators can make the glue go quite brittle, and certainly it aerates it. So I don't know why I've got some there. I haven't, I've just polished it. But basically, I don't like to use accelerators on bits like this that are structural, or bits where I'm using the glue as a filler, because basically the glue becomes aerated and full of pinholes, and you end up having to go over it again and wait for the glue to dry anyway, so you may as well just wait for the glue to dry once. There we are, so you can see that there. Puddles of glue all around those joints, and that can be left to dry. I'm going to leave that overnight, and I'll get the other one done first. Leave that overnight, let it get really nice and solid, and then take it off. Treat it with a little bit of care. You won't be able to throw it around the room, but then it should be strong enough that we can actually sand it back and everything. So I'm going to get the other side done, and then I'll just come back and show you how that looks. Alright, so there we go. That's both of them done. So as you can see now, they are going to go these are low slung, so they're not over the top. They're going to go on like that, and then that one is going to go on like that. So as you can see, they're going to be lovely. So there's our great big flat 12 engine, which is like half the bloody length of the car. So so there we go. So I'm going to let all those dry. I've thought of something else as well. Tapping these threads in these exhausts, something else I've thought of, if you don't tap the threads, when you come to refit your exhaust in there, or if you're doing it for the first time and they're all glued together, it's likely that when you turn the screw, because of the extra effort needed to wind the screw in, it's going to break the glue joint. So having those threads tapped, I think, is pretty much a must. But as I say, I'm going to leave those now for at least, I'm going to leave them initially for sort of 6 hours to dry, and then I'm going to go another coat, and I'm going to use the black next time. The only reason I'm using the black is so I can see it. If it's like here, you can see we've got a gap, but I can't really see if it's sunk down in or not, whereas with the black you can see. So that's what we'll do. So this has gone in, it's done its thing. I find this, out of all these glues, for its actual gluability and how strong it is, I find this one, the 1,4-PE, I find it to be the best. The black is my go-to, but I find that stuff is, you know, it's one of the quickest drying, and it's almost like a kind of, it's like a thin gel, if you know what I mean. It's not as thick as a gel, and it's like a normal super glue. It's really, really good, and it's very, very good stuff. That is the VMS Flexi 5K CA, and that's the 4PE one. And the other thing that's beautiful about this glue, which I'm always talking about, you can see on here, I don't really want to turn it upside down because it will leak, but you can see on there 10th of the 2nd 2022. So that is what's that now? That's over 20 months old. So, you know, incredible, and it's still good. Now, normally these glue, you know, with super glues, they're normally gone in 6 months. They're useless. I do keep them in a dark drawer, but they're not in a chilled area or anything. They're just in room temperature. So there we go. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. Let those dry. We'll get some sanding done to get that bin out of the way, and I'll see you back for a little bit more in a minute. Right, so here we are, a couple of hours later now, and this super glue is kind of dry. I'm not going to take them off yet, but it's kind of dry. So what I'm going to do to get this video done and get it out there for you, this is the the standard build sort of thing. But this is something, what I will do, I will include little modifications that I recommend even if you're building a standard, out of the box build. That's one recommendation I would make, is to glue those after they're screwed in. So basically now just carry on with the build. So we've done these exhausts, that's step 3. And then here we've got step 4. So they're asking us to fit the cylinder heads to the sides of the engine. Now, basically you've got, let's get some screws ready actually. Let's get a couple of G screws. Okay, so we've got a couple of those there ready to go. And what I'll do, I will get myself armed with a screw on the end of the screwdriver ready to go. Now you can see you have, from the instructions, you can see we have this left-hand cylinder head going on like this. Okay, so that's going to just pop on there like that, he says. Okay, so you've got this surrounds on here for it to fit in. So that's going to pop on there like that. Alright, and then you're going to put your screws in. Now the trouble is, you've got this plate here, and you can see here they've got a hazard mark by the plate there. And this plate is going to go on the back, but you can't get it in once you've fitted the cylinder head. So what you need to do is, or cylinder bank with head should I say, so that needs to go like that. You need to hold that on there and then place that together in there like that with it on there. You can see it won't fall out. There's a little, I'll show you on the other one, there's a little groove. You see the groove on there? See that groove there? There's a little tab on there. You see the tab on there by my finger. There you go, the tab sticking out. That goes into that groove. So that's basically where that's going to go. And then we're going to take a G screw and just screw that in, nip it down. I'm going to just nip it down because I'm going to be taking it all apart again to make the next video, and I've just broken something again. I glued that bit back on for your delectation, and I've knocked it out of there. You can see how vulnerable that is. That's twice that's been broken now without me even trying. So we'll get a couple of these screws out of here. And then we'll get armed with one here, and we shall do the other side. So we'll grab our engine block, we'll get this panel here, we'll put that in there, okay, and then that is going to go onto there like that. Hold that in place, and then with the screw it in. Okay, it's a funny old engine this. If you're wondering what all these bits are here, these pieces here should be the fiberglass colour. They are actually part of the fiberglass encasement around the engine, and what they did, they put a big fan on the top, and then they built like a box around the engine, so you had not high pressure, but above atmospheric pressure air all around the engine, which would bleed through. Obviously, if they didn't let it bleed through, you wouldn't get any cooling effect. It's the same as, if you have a radiator and you block up behind, it can't cool because there's no flow going through. The air needs to flow through, so there'll be gaps strategically placed where the air could flow out, and it would make the air. If they had a great big gap here, the air would just come down through the fan and go out there, and then the end cylinders wouldn't get cooled. So they probably had, they would have made the air go all over the engine, and it was the actual epitome of air cooling. And this fan, you'll see the fan go on soon, and that sits on the top and just keeps this area of pressure, cool air around the engine, keep it cool. This is great. I mean, there's no catalytic converters, there's no silencers, there's no GPFs, nothing. There's going to be pipes going on there that go out to the back of the car. That's it. A bit better than Lamborghini, isn't it, with all those cats and everything in there. You can see how loose that's become as well. That's interesting. It doesn't matter because once it's bolted in, everything's going to be bolted up and solid, so it's going to support it. Okay, so we've done that. So that's step 4, and then it's telling us to fit the exhaust. Now, you can see that I can actually fit the exhaust beforehand, so it doesn't really matter which way you do it. I would suggest that probably fitting into the cylinders before you put them on is a bit easier. But you can see there's no reason why you should But I mean, you could put them on after, and that way you can spray all of this because it's all magnesium. I'm not sure about the cylinders. I'm not sure what colour they should be, and also we've got the cylinder heads as well. So we'll see about that. In fact, I think the cylinder heads were part of the cylinder bank bore, weren't they? I don't think they were separate. So we shall see. No, they were. They had a cylinder head. They did, because they had a hemispherical head. And I've seen them. That is a separate part to that. That is the sleeve, and that is the actual head. Right, so then coming along here, we've got step 6. We've got 2 of these. So we've got a left and we've got a right. So this one is the left. So I want DCC1 and DCC2. So here's my DCC tray. So I can get DCC1 out. And you can see I've already tapped the threads in these, so you don't have to watch me do that. And I want DCC2, which is at the top. Okay, so there's DCC2. All right. And then we need 4 off E screws. So E screws are up here. So we need 4 of them, so that one can go back. Goodbye. Okay, so we'll have 4 of these, and I'll use the smaller screwdriver because these are quite small heads on these. There we go. So we're going to get this is our rocker cover, cam cover, we're going to call it. Get it the right way up, and as you can see, there's a closed side and open side. Closed on the top, open on the bottom. Closed, open. So it's going to go that way round. Make sure it's the right side, it's the left, yes. And then we've got this one here. This is DCC2, and it's going to go that way up. You can see this raised area here coincides with that raised area there. So that's going like that into there. Okay, and then we're just going to plonk a screw in. As I say, I've already tapped these threads, so the screws are going in nice and easy. No grunching. Somebody asked, I think it was Disabled Welshman, asked what is grunching. Grunching is, I don't know if it's a word I've made up or I've heard somewhere or whatever, but basically, to me, when I say it, what I mean is, you know, when you've got a strip thread and you just like, you just keep going and keep sort of just forcing it in. That's grunching it in. That's what I mean. Okay, now this, I'm guessing, I need to see which way up it's going to go, and there's no description in the instructions, but okay, we can see there's a block on here. See this block? This flat block, that goes to this end. So it's going that way up. Yeah, so you can see that lines up. If you get it the wrong way round, the actual screw holes line up, but as you can see, it's all overlapping here. It's too high up. So make sure you've got the cylinder head, the valve cover the right way round, and then you've got this the right way round. So valve cover with this down, and then this is going to go on like that. There we go, dear. Magnetic screwdrivers are great when the screw goes to the right place, but when they don't, then they're a complete and utter pain. Wish they could make screws with a magnetic head. That would be good, wouldn't it? That doesn't feel right. That feels like it may be cross-threaded. Maybe I forgot to tap it. So there we are. There's one cam cover, and then these are literally, you glue them on. I'm not going to glue these on. I'm hoping they'll stay on. You can see here, I wouldn't advise gluing these on because there are 2 pins here and there's a pin here, and they've got to engage. And I think if that panel there on the end, that part there, which is DCB1, I have a feeling that you won't be able to get your cam cover on. That's going to go in there, that's going to go in there. And as you can see, we got all this lining up on here, so that's all lovely. I've got a feeling all of this should be aluminium. I know that this plate in here, that part there, is fiberglass colour. That's probably black there. So we'll have to do some research and check it all out. So off camera, I'm going to go on and assemble the other one of these now. As I said, I don't want to glue them because I want to take them apart to make version 2. So that's going to get us done for step 2 of the build. So I'll come back in a second. And there we go. That's both sides done. So as you can see, we've got our massive cylinders, massive cam covers. These end plates are on. Obviously they're all going to be glued in place. But really, really nice. It's weighing a ton. It's about 8 inches long. It's huge. It's bloody gorgeous. It really is lovely. So, and just to give you an idea, you've got all this detail in here, and you may be thinking it looks a little bit lacking in detail. There's a reason for that. When you turn over the page, you can see here we're fitting these intake trumpets, and they're basically going to fit into here. This is the this is part C1. This is the cover that goes over, and in there's a fan, and that fan, as I say, will blow air down in, and it will put pressurized air in around the engine. Okay, actually, something I've just thought of, something I don't actually know. I'm 99% sure it blows down, but it might actually pull air through. But I'm 99.9% sure it blows down. The 935s had it as well, and the 911 RSRs, and the 934s and that, sorry. But basically, there we go. So that's going to go on like that. So that's basically going to sit in there, the same on this side. So all of that's going to be covered in. All you're going to see is what you can see down through the gaps in the fan. There we are. Beautiful, isn't it? Now in the next part, we're going to be doing all this lovely detail on the front and making up this engine front cover. We've got, I don't know if that's a rubber belt or whatever, but it's certainly a belt. And then we've got hoses and fittings. So we'll be getting our metallic blues, our LP45 and LP46. That's racing blue. Sorry, hang on a minute. Is that the right one? Yes. Racing blue and pure metallic red is great for our Goodrich fittings. So we'll have to see if Goodrich is actually appropriate for this age. We shall have to check, but it would be nice if we could, wouldn't it? So there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed that. We've got the main part of the engine together. Cut little bits and pieces to look out for. Like I say, don't glue them on. Don't glue these plates on until you've got your cam covers on. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to get them on. So they're going to be glued on there loose. They're separate assemblies. And those, make sure you put them on with your cylinders. Otherwise, you're not going to get them on. So there we are. And we've had a quick a quick preview of what's coming next week. Now in the meantime, I will go away and get my revisited video done and get all this get all this done up to a sort of, you know, a specification that I'd be happier with, and get some painting done. I think I'm probably going to mix a yellow colour for the fiberglass or whatever. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on that and find out just how yellow they actually went. But they are, it's a very sort of, maybe some yellow with a bit of grey in it or something. I don't know. The other biggest problem, of course, yellow is the worst colour there is for coverage. That will be why they've used white sprue on here, because yellow paint is a complete swine to cover anything. So there we go. Right, I'll see you all next week. Thank you for watching. Any questions, as I say, pop them down in the comments below. If you see the video inundated with adverts, please let me know in the comments and I will sort it out. It seems that YouTube have got a habit lately of putting adverts in videos, and they're putting them sometimes every minute. It's just ridiculous. And nobody should be expected, you know, if you've got an hour-long video and you have an advert at 20 minutes and 40 minutes, then fair enough. But not every minute. That's just absolutely crazy. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Keep your eyes peeled now. Between now and next week, you'll get revisited. Maybe even straight after this video. We'll see how we get on. and that'll be covering doing the seams and the exhaust, cleaning up the seams, painting the exhaust, probably painting the whole engine block and everything. And as I say, I think there is value in fitting the exhaust after fitting the cylinders, because you can paint it all together. But if you're not going to bother painting your model, I would actually put them on before you fit them to the cylinders. I think it makes a lot more sense. But I've got to go away now and get these all cleaned up. We'll get some more super glue in to fill them. You can hear that. I mean, that was filled with super glue. You can see how much it shrunk back in. There's a great big step in there now. You can see it. So yeah, that's going to take a lot of time to cure and sink back and everything. But it's worth doing. I think it's really worth doing. Even if you look at it from underneath, it's going to look lovely. Right, I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.